Welcome to Bodhi Unified Flow, where we simplify complexity and amplify performance. Today, we're diving deep into a truly foundational topic, the emergency fund. Specifically, why you need 6 to 12 months of living expenses and exactly how to avoid those devastating spending shocks. Look, this is the absolute bedrock of your personal finance journey. So, let's jump right into this explainer and start building your financial fortress.
Here's our roadmap for today. First, welcome and objectives. Second, protecting your compounding engine. Third, the 3, 6, 12-month architecture. Fourth, neutralizing predictable spending shocks. Fifth, where to park the cash. And finally, summary and references. All right, Section 1, welcome and objectives. It's always crucial to know our exact destination before we begin.
By the end of this explainer, you aren't just getting vague theory. We're giving you a concrete mathematical framework. You'll learn how to calculate your true survival expenses, completely neutralize those nasty spending shocks, and pinpoint exactly where to safely park your capital in the 2026 Indian financial landscape. Let's get to work. Moving on to Section 2, protecting your compounding engine. Think about it. If your long-term investments are the engine of your wealth, we absolutely need to talk about the armor that protects that engine from a catastrophic breakdown.
Let's be really precise here. An emergency fund isn't just a slush fund or a stash of extra cash for a spontaneous weekend trip. It's a defensive shield. Its entire purpose in life is to provide a massive margin of safety for life's curveballs, like sudden medical bills or a totally unexpected job loss. The goal? Making sure you never have to interrupt your long-term investment strategy. And it must be segregated, meaning it sits entirely apart from your everyday checking account.
Picture this, the prepared investor versus the impromptu investor. When an unexpected curveball hits, say a sudden home repair or a hefty medical deductible, the prepared investor calmly dips into their liquid reserves to fix the issue. Boom, done. Their market-linked investments are completely undisturbed, just quietly continuing to compound. The impromptu investor, on the other hand, lacks this buffer, so they're forced into a really devastating cycle. They either have to take on high-interest credit card debt, instantly entering a toxic debt loop, or they're forced to prematurely liquidate their stock portfolio, potentially locking in a massive loss if the market happens to be down.
But wow, get this, the cost isn't just financial, it's incredibly mental. Institutional research reveals something staggering. Financial stress costs the average employee 15 hours of productive work every single week. 15 hours! It completely depletes your cognitive bandwidth. By building this fund, you're literally buying cognitive insurance. You're freeing your mind from that endless worry cycle so you can focus on high-value problem solving and, actually living your life.
Okay, Section 3, the 3, 6, 12-month architecture. Now let's actually dive into the math to calculate exactly how much money you need to build this shield, because guessing simply won't cut it. Your target number here is based strictly on unavoidable survival costs. We have to be ruthless and strip out all the fluff. We're looking at your rent or home loan EMIs, basic groceries, utilities, and those absolutely critical health and life insurance premiums. We are completely excluding dining out, vacations, or upgrading to that new phone. Once you calculate these bare essentials, you've got your baseline monthly survival number. So how many months of that survival number do you actually need? Well, it scales dynamically based on your life profile. Are you single with a highly stable salary job? 3 to 6 months of those essential expenses is likely perfectly sufficient for you. Married with dependent children? Your fixed obligations are significantly higher, so you really need to push that to 6 to 9 months. And if you're a freelancer, an entrepreneur, or a gig worker riding those highly irregular income cycles, you absolutely must aim for 9 to 12 months, maybe even more, just to bridge those potentially long dry spells.
Section 4, neutralizing predictable spending shocks. Look, a robust safety net is utterly useless if you constantly drain it for predictable events.
Enter your secret weapon, the sinking fund. So many people think they're having a financial emergency, when in reality, they just got hit by a totally predictable, non-monthly expense. Sinking funds completely eliminate that surprise factor. They magically convert what would be a painful lump sum hit into a highly manageable monthly line item. Here's the crucial difference. Your emergency fund is a reactive lifeboat for the true unknowns, like a sudden job loss or a severe illness. Your sinking fund, on the other hand, is a planned, proactive savings pot. Think about your annual car insurance premiums, school fees, or major festival expenses for Diwali or Eid. By proactively planning for these, you're protecting your true emergency fund from being slowly bled dry by entirely predictable life events. To implement this, the math couldn't be simpler. You literally just take the total estimated cost of your upcoming expense and divide it by the number of months until the payment is due. Let's say you've got a 12,000 rupee annual insurance premium due in exactly 12 months. You just sink 1,000 rupees a month into a dedicated pot. When that bill finally arrives, the cash is just sitting there waiting, spending shock completely neutralized.
Section 5. Where to park the cash. So, you've got your target calculated, your sinking funds are set up, but the final hurdle is knowing exactly where to park all this capital.
You absolutely cannot just leave this money sitting under a mattress or in a zero-interest checking account. Why? Because of medical inflation, which currently sits at a staggering 14%. That inflation rate will silently set fire to the purchasing power of your idle cash. Think about it. If you have a 5 lakh rupee buffer just sitting idle, 14% inflation erodes its real value by nearly 2.4 lakhs in just 36 months. We desperately need yield, but we simply cannot sacrifice safety to get it.
Professional liquidity management in 2026 is all about a tiered or layered strategy. This brilliantly balances our absolute need for instant access with instruments that offer solid capital protection against inflation. Layer 1 is about 10% of your fund in physical cash or a basic savings account. This is for true 24/7 immediate emergencies. Layer 2 is roughly 20% in high-yield savings or fixed deposits, which gives you fast, reliable digital access via UPI or IMPS. Finally, Layer 3 holds the bulk of it at 70%. This sits in liquid or arbitrage mutual funds, providing steady yield generation with extremely low risk.
Looking at the Indian banking landscape right now, with the RBI repo rate holding steady, small finance banks are currently leading the fixed deposit market. Institutions like Unity Small Finance Bank are offering highly competitive yields right around 8.60%, and Jana Small Finance Bank is at 8.20%. That is fantastic for counteracting inflation on your Layer 2 funds. Meanwhile, public sector banks like SBI provide maximum psychological safety, albeit at slightly lower yields around 6.25%. Blending these together can optimize your safety and return perfectly.
Listen to me. This is a rule written in absolute stone. Parking your emergency funds in equities is a fatal mistake. Think about how the world works. Market downturns almost always perfectly coincide with widespread economic layoffs. If your emergency cash is sitting in the stock market, you're inducing massive volatility. When you lose your job and need that money the absolute most, your portfolio might suddenly be down 20%, forcing you to liquidate at a massive loss. Keep this safety net out of the equity markets entirely. Period. Finally, Section 6, Summary and References. Let's bring this all together and see how these structural pieces build your ultimate financial resilience.
We've successfully covered our core learning objectives today. You now know exactly how to mathematically size your fund based purely on essential living costs. You know how to deploy sinking funds to effortlessly diffuse those predictable annual hits. You know to strictly avoid the massive trap of volatile equities, and you know how to strategically layer your safety net across Indian banking instruments to get both yield and safety.
As you evaluate your own financial setup today, you have a stark choice to make. You can operate as the prepared investor, calmly insulated from life's worst storms. Or you can leave your greatest wealth-generating assets entirely exposed to chaotic, unpredictable forces. Make no mistake, the decision you make today will compound, either positively or negatively, over the decades ahead.
Here are the authoritative references, research papers, institutional data, and fantastic insights from platforms like Zero to Varsity that we cited in today's explainer. I highly encourage you to explore these to further deepen your mastery of personal finance. Thank you for joining me on Bodhi Unified Flow. I'll leave you with this final thought. Is your compounding engine fully protected by a 6 to 12-month armor of liquidity, or could a single unpredictable shock completely derail a decade of your financial progress? Go out there and keep building that financial fortress.